Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Good morning. This is Stan in Gainesville, Florida.
And this is Ellen Lampert-Greaux coming to you live from the sunny Caribbean Isle of St. Bart's.
The hurricane has passed through. Fantastic. And this is David coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers and Sisters. Welcome to episode 178. And today we have a really special show. But before we get started with our guests, Stan, Steve, and I would like to officially welcome our longtime dear friend, a fellow ally of light, and new Lumen Sistah Ellen Lampert-Greaux. Ellen, welcome. It's wonderful to have you here as part of the Lumen family.
The dysfunctional Lumen family.
Well, I'm always happy to be the one who brings the fun to dysfunctional, so thank you very much.
Well, that's good news.
Ellen and I go all the way back to Brooklyn College. That's a long time.
Oh, my God, we do. That's amazing.
Oh, my God. Okay, so listen, let's get started. So I'm going to hand all of this over to Ellen, and she can introduce our two special guests today.
Great. I'll be happy to. Today we are having a red alert, which is not as dangerous as it sounds, but a very exciting event.
Do we have a sound effect for that, David?
Woo-hoo.
Oh, I'll get a red alert sound effect.
Red alert. That's going to take place on Tuesday, September 1st. And our guests today are Brad Nelms, the accidental director of We Make Events North America, and Stephanie Freed from Extend PUA. So let's get started. I'm going to start with Brad. Can you tell us a little about who you are and how you got involved in We Make Events North America?
Yeah, hi, Ellen, and hi, Stan, Steve, and David. Thank you so much for doing this and for having us on.
Great to
really
do it.
Really appreciate it. Yeah. So a little bit about me. A lot of people don't necessarily know me in the production side of the world. I've been in the industry for many years, but always on the equipment sales and integration side of things. So I've built lots of venues around the country and museums and small churches in the middle of nowhere and what have you, but not so much been on the rock and roll side. So a lot of people are not as familiar with my name in the designer and music space, but certainly been around and know some of the folks. And I am here because I happen to be in on a Zoom call that is a virtual happy hour that's curated by Marcel Fairbairn of Gear Source. And after the UK event, we all sort of said, let's do this. So I volunteered myself, and it's been a freight train rolling down the tracks ever since, but I think we're going to do something really cool. So we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. So what is Red Alert all about? What's happening on September 1st and why?
Yeah, the event that we are doing is called Red Alert Restart, but this comes from a UK message. And of course, everybody that I'm sure is listening is very familiar, even on a personal level, with the plight of our industry and what's going on right now. So, this is about the people and the businesses that make up live events and the live entertainment industry and the struggles that we have right now with the challenges from COVID and not being able to do anything. So on August 11th, the UK team of We Make Events did what they called Light It Red event. So they lit over 700 buildings red on that night, and they put a barge down the Thames River with some VIP people, and they generated a lot of noise and a lot of press attention, and just put it out there to say, hey, world, we're here, we need help. And for everything that they did, it was a great event, and it was very successful, and it got some press attention and generated a lot of noise. And perhaps the best thing that they've done with it is they've taken that as almost a formula and given that to other places to sort of activate the next country with a branding package and sort of a path to say, here, you go do this too. So we were one of the first ones to jump in with that in what started as North America. So we are taking the same idea and expanding upon it with a little bit more of a direct approach, and we're hopefully going to make it much, much larger. So on September 1st, we are doing the Red Alert Restart event, which is going to have hopefully far surpassing, but at least 1,500 structures or buildings lit up across the U.S. and Canada and Trinidad and Tobago and Mexico and Peru and several places that are jumping in to show solidarity and support of what's going on. So we're going to have a bunch of stuff lit up, And then we're also going to have a local event that happens in many cities across the country. And when I say event, I don't mean we're going to put on a concert. I mean that we're going to host some sort of an attention-grabbing response. So a stand-in or a case push or, an empty event. There are several organizations that have organized these already in individual cities. So we're kind of combining those forces and then using those two things on a mass scale to attract media attention. So we're looking for local media and press coverage in each of the cities, and we're looking at a national PR campaign that's going to help raise awareness for what we're doing. Right now, we have more than 50 cities across the U.S. that have regional teams that are tasked with making those three things happen. So this is going to be a really big event with a lot of really iconic stuff lit up and some really cool stories to tell. But all of that is really just kind of noise. So what we're really doing here, the why of what we're doing, is a very specific purpose to get some legislation moved through Congress that is stalling right now. So that first piece of legislation is the Restart Act. And if you're not familiar with it, that is a bill that is specifically pointed at relief funding for small businesses that has the appropriate mechanics in it that give us as an industry the leeway that we need to be able to get through March. Pretty much every other industry out there is going to be back in some capacity prior to what we're going to see, because obviously we can't gather, and until we can gather again, we will not be able to see the full results of that. So the Restart Act is number one. The second ask that we have is about the humans, the people side of this that aren't able to retain employment regardless of whether or not their employer has funding. So that's working with extendpua.org and their mission to extend and expand on pandemic unemployment assistance and federal pandemic unemployment compensation, which Stephanie will talk about in more detail. But those are essentially about the $600 a week and access to that money for 1099 independent contractors, which are very important things. And then we've also just recently brought on board with this group Save Our Stages, which is an important piece of legislation as well that hits some of the independent venues that aren't included in the Restart Act, unfortunately. So we have lots of partners that are working with us to make this as widely helpful as possible, and we're going to push it as loud and as hard as we can to make sure that Congress is going to pay attention and hopefully move forward with some of this.
Thanks, Brad. I think since you mentioned PUA, let's move over to Stephanie for a second and see if she can explain what Extend PUA is exactly, because I understand it's an entire organization that's not just for this, but for a lot of lobbying work in Washington.
Yeah, thanks, Ellen. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me, Stan and Steve and David, and good to talk to you, Brad and Ellen. I feel like we're talking every day, but it is good to be here with you. ExtendPUA.org is a grassroots organization that has existed for a couple months now, made by people in the industry. I'm a lighting freelancer, and my co-founder is in video, and the organization advocates for pandemic relief for everyone, and we have 10 asks. It's also a resource. We have 10 action items on the website for people can go and they can call their senator, and there's a script for them. They can send a pre-written letter to their senator that's already written, and we try to make all of the actions to get this pandemic relief that so many people need really easy. We created it because we're freelancers in this industry, and we were seeing so much despair and terror around the $600, the FPUC expiring. And we said, what can we do about it? And we didn't know. And so we figured no one else knew either. Yes, in general, contact your congressperson, but how do we do it? How do we do it in a way that is effective and actually makes change? So we found some partners, talked to lots of people who were doing things that were similar, and then made the resource because we didn't find that it existed. We started it just to be about the 600, which is such a big deal. But then as we started talking to people and having other partners, and unemployed people started very quickly reaching out to us because we had made something that they could use and that spoke to them. We've realized how much bigger all of the problems are. Like, it's not just the 600. There are some people that don't get any unemployment because they're excluded from unemployment and for a variety of reasons. There are other needs. So we now have expanded the organization, so it's not just PUA and FPUC. We have a list of 10 asks, and we don't just advocate for the industry anymore. We try to be an organization that uses the resources of the entertainment industry, because we have incredible access in this industry and we have incredible visibility, even though, like, we're the people with access to lights to put on buildings. There are millions of other unemployed people that don't have that kind of access. So as an organization, we try to advocate for all of those people. Our involvement in Red Alert, which we are very excited about, is that we saw and talked to Brad about the Restart Act and all of that, and we wanted to help with the human component of it, because that is what we've been obsessively working on for the last 2 months. So as Brad touched on, pandemic unemployment assistance is the legislation in the CARES Act that opened up unemployment to independent contractors and gig workers and everybody on 1099s, because usually those people, which is a lot of us in the industry, aren't eligible for unemployment. So PUA made it so any of us could get unemployment benefits, even though there are some problems with it with mixed sources. And then FPUC is the $600 everybody's been talking about because it expired July 25th. So now everyone has been kicked off the FPUC and is just receiving their benefits from their states, which aren't livable wages. Oklahoma's is $44 on average. So it's concerning.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that low. That's amazing.
It's an average, but yeah, that's not their max, but that is the current average payout in Oklahoma, which is devastating.
Stephanie, how do you combat, partisanism and making sure this is, bipartisan, and the theory that people would rather stay at home and not work if they could get that increased unemployment benefit for a long time?
Oh, yeah, that is a favorite talking point for sure that comes at us a lot. I think there's so many responses to it. The first is that people want to work. As a person who is now speaking to a lot of unemployed people all the time, and as a person who is unemployed, I am one of those unemployed people, and so are most of my friends. I want to go to work. So does everyone I know. I do not want to sit at my computer and watch Netflix for 3 months. I want to go to work and do Fashion Week and do all of the beautiful work we get to do together. I miss my coworkers. And that's true across the board for everyone I talk to, and certainly in this industry where we are generally very passionate about our jobs, but it's true across industries. And then there's a bunch of studies that they did to support that. Yale has done a study, the Chicago Fed did a study, all just to refute the fact that people think that the $600 was disincentivizing work. There's 13 million fewer jobs right now than there were pre-pandemic. Like, there's not work to be had. Face-to-face industries like ours can't go back to work. Immunocompromised people can't go back to work, and the people they care for. You also can't be offered a job and still stay on unemployment. So saying that people would rather stay home and will just not say yes to work isn't legal. And then the last thing I say about the whole thing is, should we be going back to work? COVID cases are still ramping up, frankly. So why are we worried about this disincentivizing work when perhaps the whole point of it is that we shouldn't be working at the moment? So there's a lot of answers to that one question.
Well, Stephanie, I would say too that people want to work. Money's important, no doubt about it. But people want to show their skill sets off. They want to feel like they're contributing. They want something to do with their hands. I mean, that's what we do as human beings.
Right. I mean, with this Red Alert thing that we're doing, the outreach for people to help with that has been incredible. And just yesterday I was talking to someone and she's like, I just want to do some work. So getting involved in this is doing the work that we all miss doing. We want to do it.
I have a thought. I was intrigued by the website that you set up with the letters to congresspeople and senators, and I do that quite a bit. And I remember getting some advice many years ago, and I don't know if there's a practical way to do this, but in talking to a politician once who said, we have staff, we get a lot of stuff, and it's like a big fire hose of stuff. But when we get a letter in an envelope with a stamp that's written from an individual, we actually read those and they get more attention. And I thought that was really interesting. And now in the world of, it's one thing to make this big statement, and I think that's great, and I'm all with you. But at the same time, I've had telephone calls and I've had office meetings with legislators, and that sort of personal, direct contact oftentimes has an outsized impact. So I wonder if there's a way in which, like if I could download a letter, print it out, put my name on it, or maybe even just fill in some blanks and then send it. I don't know if that still has impact like it used to, but in my recent conversations, it seemed to still have a different flavor in terms of impact.
Well, considering all the cuts to the post office, it'll probably get there in February. That's the problem. Stephanie, that's very interesting because I checked out, the website too. It's a great website. And I learned something, and it's shocking because, we all have friends in the industry. We're designers as well. And you're right. I mean, when this came, people lost all their gigs. I lost 6 shows, which is nothing compared to what other people have lost. And thank God I have another income stream. But so many of our colleagues and friends, this is it. They're basically independent contractors. You lose those gigs, you have no money coming in. And it is scary. The strain on families is huge. And people don't care. It's weird, that they don't understand that there are industries that are absolutely devastated, and ours being one of them. And it's happening to all of our friends. It's horrible. So you're bringing up these issues, and thank God there's a bill in Congress that actually cares about independent contractors. But we do have to get behind it. And I think we're all urging everybody out there, all our listeners and members of Light Talk Facebook group, to go ahead and support this. And at least write a letter, like Stan says, or send an email or whatever, call, just to make sure that there's support there, because it is we're at a point in our country right now, obviously, where a lot of things are on the line. So we got to all support each other. And this is the best way of doing it right now, I think. Thank you for doing this, both of you guys.
I think Brad has hit something on the head, and that is we are invisible. I tell my students, right, when you go and watch a movie, sit there and look at the 800 names roll by who, watch the credits.
Watch the credits.
People come to a rock and roll show. They don't think about everybody who put that show together. They go to a trade show. They don't think about all the people who are unloading trucks and putting equipment up and showing these products. We are an invisible industry, as surely as anything.
We used to consider that a success. The funny part is, if we did our job right, we'd be invisible. But now we have a problem, and it's the opposite.
Now we have a problem. Yeah, got a tooth. I just have something to say about your point about the de-incentivizing work and the notion that this legislation. I have sort of a bullet to sort of shoot at that one. So you're not really using the money to keep people home and de-incentivize work. You are paying them to stay home. But what you're really doing, the truth of it is we're buying time. And we're buying time for science to catch up so that we can get back to work.
Absolutely.
That's really the reality. And if we take the risk of, because you asked the question, Stephanie, should we be going back to work right now? So if we go back to work when science is still trying to protect us, find the vaccine, then people are going to get sick and people are going to recover. But nobody on earth can tell you what the post-COVID syndrome is going to be. And we're starting to see what post-COVID syndrome could be already. So I think the framing of that question is that we're not de-incentivizing work. We're buying time for science so that it's safe to go back to work. It's not that people don't want to go back to work.
Something that I want to mention, just to kind of hit on what David was talking about, is talking about the numbers a little bit, and understanding what the scope of this thing is. So it's really tough to wrap our arms, for anybody to wrap their arms around exactly what live events encompasses, because it's so many people. It's technicians, it's parking attendants, it's concession stand workers, it's managers and back office people and all these different people. But from the best that we've been able to kind of gather, we're estimating that includes about 12 million people. And our economic impact annually to the U.S. economy is over $1 trillion. So that, that's the tertiary effect of tax dollars. And people go to a show and they go to dinner first, or the hotels that they stay in and the flights that they take and all those things. Those are really big numbers. And then if you take the losses with that, so again, as much as we can gather, because it's really tough to get super fine statistics in this stuff, 77%, I believe, is the number of people that have experienced 100% loss of income in the industry. 77% of 12 million people. That's a lot of people.
That's amazing. That's what blew me away. Amazing.
And 97% of 1099 workers have lost 100% of their income. So that's why the PUA is so important to them.
Right. And not only that, but it's like this huge domino effect. I mean, you close one Broadway theater and the parking lots and the printers and the ticket takers and the restaurants and everything that's around there. If Broadway doesn't come back, New York is going to have a huge problem.
Well, it's also those same jobs that we are affecting are a lot of people in the industries, for lack of a better word, backup jobs or other jobs. We've lost people in the industry might have been able to go and work in retail or something like that, but the retail jobs don't exist.
That's true. How many actors have a day job as a server? Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, they say all politics is local. I mean, here in Dallas, ranging from a Lord Equity House to a mom and pop operation, in the Metroplex we have 64 theater companies, 2 opera companies,
wow.
A handful of dance companies. So that's a lot of people who are out of work here, wondering what they're going to do.
But there's also companies. We really haven't talked about the small companies that support the industry. Lighting rental companies, specialty companies, what's happening like Rose Brand, bigger companies, larger companies, and even the largest companies, lighting companies. At least they have corporate support from the other mega corporations that may own them. But still, it's a huge effect on people.
It's devastating.
I think it's huge. I think you're right. I think the rental shops and the manufacturers are really suffering as well. A lot of them have cut jobs, furloughed staff. I think Brad can address that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been huge across the board, from manufacturers to distributors to rental shops, whatever. The thing that I think we need to get our message out there far and wide that a lot of people mistake outside of the industry is, they have this idea in your head, okay, you go see Aerosmith at a show, right? And then Aerosmith has everybody on that show on their payroll and they're rich, so why can't they pay everybody? Or everybody that works for them is therefore rich. That is just not the case. Everybody underneath that is a company and a struggling business that is fighting every day to be able to feed their families and to go home and keep food on the table and to be able to enjoy the life that they want to enjoy, not having 10 houses and 2 yachts and whatever. That's just not the majority, and that's not who's hurting right now. It's not the artists, it's those underneath them.
But we need those people to get loud for us.
Which is what we're doing. We've got, for the We Make events, a lot of stars are making PSAs that will be on our website and on our social media. And the one from Alice Cooper is wonderful. The one from Nathan Lane is wonderful. They're going to be terrific.
I was going to ask about that. Whose ears do you have at this point? And are you...
Everyone's.
on the decision maker side. On our side, I'm sure you've got plenty of support, but on the decision makers in Congress, have you got anybody's ear yet?
So the bills in question, and Stephanie may be able to speak to this in more detail, but the bills in question already have a fair amount of bipartisan support. What we're trying to do is push them over the edge.
Chuck Schumer has certainly supported the Save Our Stages. He's one of the people who's really on our side. And
Great.
From our industry, there's Michael Strickland from Bandit Lights, who has been tirelessly working on behalf of all of this. And I don't know if you have seen, but if you go to any of the websites, the industry websites, all of Michael's updates are there, all the news from him. And he just been, and he was on CNBC yesterday morning talking about it with the drummer from the band Kansas, who was saying, hey, look, we're all sitting at home. We were out on the road and they said, go home. It's all canceled. And he said they looked at moving their 2020 dates into 2021. Now they're talking about 22.
Well, and Michael's camped out with his 2 senators also, pushing them to do something.
Oh, that helps. Yeah, that really helps.
Yeah, I think some of the difficulty, though, is that there isn't a bill that is for this industry that addresses all the things. Save Our Stages exists. It has its supporters. Restart exists, which isn't industry specific, but it has its supporters, and whatever's going to happen with that ends up happening with that, because I think it's being reworked a bit. And then the PUA and FPUC isn't part of a bill. It's part of the CARES Act, and it needs to be extended. So it's not like we have one thing to rally behind and say, we need someone to speak for the industry. They have to touch all these other pieces, which is a little bit trickier, it seems like.
Yeah, that definitely has been a challenge for us, is trying to figure out the best strategy to hit all of that. And, I think that speaks to what we're looking at from a success standpoint. We have these goals and these asks that we're shooting for. And I think if we can get the 3 of those things, and we can, get word out publicly, then we've hit a grand slam in this whole thing. Probably a more likely scenario is that we get 2 of the 3 things, or maybe even 1 of the 3 things, and that'll be considered forward motion. But the work's not going to stop there. There's no guarantee that if we get to March, we're back and there's revenue there. So there's going to have to be another round of this whole thing in the future.
Brad, going back to the September 1st event, can you tell us a little bit about what's going on in some of the cities that you know of?
It definitely varies from city to city. So we have set up a structure basically where we have a regional director in each of those cities, and they are running the local efforts. But for example, in Nashville, I know that they are doing a drive, not parade, but a drive-through kind of thing with a bunch of trucks and buses and people's cars and whatever. And they're starting at Nissan Stadium where the Titans play, and they're going through downtown to just show, the magnitude of what it is, and to make some noise to kind of kick the thing off. And I think they've got 200 or 250 vehicles participating in that, which is great. In other cities, they've got some case pushes happening. We have kind of a surprise thing going on in LA that is hopefully going to be a really great closing message to everything. Stephanie, you've been involved directly with some of the New York stuff. Do you want to talk about that?
I think it's still kind of under wraps, to be honest. So I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but Fair enough. Is going to be exciting.
All right.
Well, I do know that, like in San Francisco, they've got, probably 40 or 50 buildings already online, including their city hall, the War Memorial, Coit Tower. They've rented a helicopter. They have drones coming in. So it's going to be very, very exciting what's going on in all these cities. And I don't know if Brad can address this, but there's going to be a live feed all day on the from 9 to 12. How does that work, Brad?
Yeah, that's going to be a really cool element that we're calling it. It's almost like a New Year's Eve style thing. So we're going to start in New York City to kick it off. And we're going to spend some time there interviewing people and getting footage and talking about what's going on and starting the message. And then we're going to roll through the entire country and hit cities for a few minutes here and there for about 3 hours and really get the message out and try to show people the scope and the magnitude. This is, again, about those big numbers and how big of an industry we are that people have no idea. So that's what we're trying to get out there, is to demonstrate our force and our size, and do that in as loud of a way as possible. that is productive, and then gives us a whole lot of ammo to go put that in front of congressional leadership to say, look at all the people that are involved in this just to make this happen. And that obviously doesn't even include everyone, but this is a huge thing, and it affects a lot of people, and it ties up a lot of money. So we need to do something.
The ammo part is so interesting because we're doing this on the 1st, but Congress doesn't come back until the 8th. So then we'll have all of this material that already exists that we can find ways to push at them as they're coming back, because the next week after this event is really when we need to get to them. So hopefully we'll have the stuff to do that with.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. And it's really interesting that the people that are really doing this are the people who normally would be, producing the Rolling Stones and touring with, Aerosmith. And I mean, these are the heavy hitters.
Yes, they're not hacks.
Right.
We can take care of this. We've got this.
Exactly. How many semis do you need on Las Vegas Boulevard? Sure. So, Brad, what would make the Red Alert Restart Day a success for you?
From my perspective, there are 4 things that we're trying to do. One is raise awareness in the public, and then the other 3 are specific legislative asks, so it's congressional moves forward. For the Restart Act specifically, that could either be passing it standalone, but that's highly unlikely. What is more likely is that they take the language in Restart, which is the critical element, and they use that as the structure for a larger relief bill. So getting that included in the relief bill that needs to be passed as soon as possible. And then also including in that relief bill the elements of PUA and FPUC to be able to help our displaced workers. And absolute grand slam if we can include the specific legislation of Save Our Stages to focus on those that are missed by the Restart Act within the industry. If we can do those things, that would be amazing. But the hard element here is time, right? It would almost, I'm not at all saying that we don't want those things to move forward, but it would almost be helpful if something was passed quickly, rather than trying to wait 10 weeks to get exactly what we want. But if some movement gets us a runway, and then we can continue the conversation and continue to push for the longer runway of cash, that would be, I would think, a success as well, because this is an immediate problem that businesses and people are literally on the brink of closing or becoming homeless or, whatever. This is a real
And how
issue.
long do we really think it'll be before the industry is back on its feet?
It's a tough question. For me personally, I'll just throw out my opinion there. We've talked a lot in kind of circles of what we're organizing about March being about a key target. I know right now there are 3 companies that have vaccines that are doing, nearly final human trials. So if those are successful, they're hoping to be released in October, and they're going to be released in mass. Whether or not they do exactly what they're supposed to and get released and have enough reach quickly enough is going to be the question. But what dictates the time is, are we safe enough to get back into gathering? Do people trust it enough? So it's not just a science thing; it's a mental thing, right? Do you trust it, and are you emotionally in a place where you can go do that and want to go put yourself at that potential risk? And then the third piece is a big part of it too, which is liability. Until we really have our arms wrapped around this thing and the whole COVID mess under control, there's possibility that somebody goes to an event and then they go find a hotshot lawyer to go sue somebody and say that they got COVID there. So until indemnification is passed, that's not possible, that's going to be a challenge that pushes it as well. But I think March is a best case scenario.
And Brad and Stephanie, what happens to your organizations after the legislation is passed or isn't?
Well, that is something we are talking about. We are a small organization, but because we have expanded outside just PUA and FPUC, and we're advocating for rent relief and healthcare help during this pandemic, we've really learned a lot about the inequality that exists before the pandemic. So I don't think our organization is going to be easy to let go of. I think it's going to end up shifting, and I'm I am now attached to this advocacy. I am.
That's
I've
great.
learned too much about how really, truly hard it is for people to reach out and to get their voices heard by the government. And so we have some things in the works, but they are not solid yet, because right now we're just like, relief bill, please, we need this. And I do want to touch on the idea of the written letter. I think that's really exciting. We've been talking about, because of the USPS thing, we've been talking about starting a postcard campaign or something to get mail in their hands. And we only were thinking postcards because we've heard they're just a little bit faster getting to them, because they don't have to be sorted and opened before they're allowed to be given, which I didn't know was a process that happens apparently in the government. It's slower if it's a letter. We also, the engagement with people right now, because everything is hard. Things are hard right now. It's hard to engage people and to get everyone to want to be active, because there's so many things going on. Everyone's becoming a little numb, and understandably. So the letter, I want to do that, and I hope that people will send them, and I hope that people will continue to fight, even though it's hard, because we have to. No one's going to do it for us.
Activism is good. That's how change happens.
Right, exactly. So, Brad, for the first, what can people do besides writing to their senators to get involved?
So if you're in the industry and you want to get involved, you're more than welcome to jump on one of our local teams, or if you're outside of an area and you just want to do your own thing, that's perfectly acceptable. The best thing to do if you want to participate in that kind of an active way is to go to our website, wemakeevents.org. And on that, there is a sign-up form where you can put in your information, and then it will connect you with a regional director if you're near a city. If not, then it'll get you into a larger email where you can kind of be steered or directed to see what you can do. But, get stuff lit up, create some noise. So light your building, light your house.
My house. I'm right.
Yeah.
I've got my RGBs. I've got my app. I'm going to light it up. I'm going to take the pictures and I'm going to post it. Is there a way I can post my house on the website?
Well, the website's going to pull from social media galleries, so post it to social media, whatever platform you want, but make sure that you use our hashtag. So it's hashtag #WeMakeEvents, hashtag #RedAlertRestart, hashtag extend PUA, and hashtag save our stages.
Okay, I'm going to do that, and you will see my humble abode.
I'm so excited to see your house.
And for our listeners, I've posted the link to the websites on our Light Talk Facebook group. So, we have, how many people do we have on that group now, Steve? Like 2,000 or something like that?
We're pushing 3,000 people in 123 countries.
Great.
Right, and then we're also getting close to 200,000 downloads, which is pretty damn amazing.
You guys have put together a really cool thing.
I like to have a nickel for all of those, just a nickel.
Stan, he always wants to make money on this, the commercializing.
I don't have a problem with money. Money is good. You can do good things. When you want to be an activist, you need some dollars.
Yeah, you could get us a lobbyist.
There you go, the lobbyist.
We can't afford a lobbyist. You could throw us your nickels.
Money is power.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay.
All right.
Joking aside, though, that is one thing that I do want to throw out there is I think this is a really amazing thing that I just want to give a shout out to the entire team that's involved, which I think at this point is now realistically nearing probably 5,000 people that are involved at a volunteer level to make this thing happen. No one is getting paid. We have $0, zero budget. We're not even a nonprofit organization. We're just some people who had an idea and can make things happen. So this is a really amazing guerrilla warfare style effort that's going to hopefully create some change.
Well, we hope that we gave you, some help today, because we all believe in this, Brad, Stephanie, and this is very important. And we want to thank Ellen for bringing this to our attention. And we were just actually fortunate to have this spot, and it's fantastic that we were able to make this time for you, because we're gonna run this on Saturday in 3 days. So that's great, and thank you for being here with us today, and also
Puts
thank you
our platform to good use.
Yeah, and thank you for doing this. These are our friends, and these are lifetime friends, and we want to see everybody be stable and have normal family lives and not be forgotten. So if there's anything that the Lumen brothers and sister can do for you in the future, please don't hesitate to ask, okay?
We are here. We're here for you. Absolutely. Just tell us what we can do.
Thank you for having us here.
Appreciate
This
that.
is definitely, for sure, a help. We appreciate it.
Great. It's our
and I think
pleasure.
once David gets this out, distribute it widely, for sure.
Yeah,
I know
absolutely.
I will.
Absolutely. Well, the rockin' sounds of the Luminoids tells us that once again you've spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on Spotify, iTunes, Google, YouTube, livedesignonline.com, and just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website on lighttalk.org for future guests, and be sure to follow us on the Facebook group and subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy. Well, actually, today we are guaranteeing the accuracy
We're
of
gonna
all
guarantee
statements you
today.
make.
And if you happen to be in Congress and we decide to litigate you, the law firm of Fleck, Flock, Flare, and Glare and their paralegal snoot will be right behind us.
That's right.
So Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers and Sister, coming to you from Long Beach, Gainesville, St. Bart, Las Vegas, Virginia, and the Lone Star State.
And be sure to join us next week when we talk about even more happenings in our crazy industry.
And a new sponsor.
And Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Thank you, Stephanie and Brad. And bye-bye from Light Talk.
Toodles.
Light Talk. Lumen Brothers. Light Talk. Light Talk. Light Talk. Lumen